Hello everyone, today we're making Guyanese plaid bread, and it's known for that famous braid with that one strip of dough that runs right across the top. It's my absolute favorite bread to eat. It's a little on the sweeter side with like a soft chewy center where you pull these little strands of bread apart, and it's better when you make it at home. It makes the house smell absolutely divine. What I love about this recipe is how simple and easy it is to put together. There's not a whole lot of ingredients to this recipe, and we're going to be using instant yeast in this recipe today. If you have active yeast on hand, you can go ahead and use that, but just keep in mind you have to bloom that yeast first before you add it to the flour mixture. Let's start by adding 5 cups of all-purpose flour to a large bowl, half a cup of sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt, and 2.5 teaspoons of yeast. You can choose 1 tablespoon of yeast if you prefer a much lighter bread, but for this recipe we're only using 2.5 teaspoons. We'll mix those ingredients together, and then we'll add half a cup of cold butter and 2 tablespoons of cold shortening, and we'll crumb all of those ingredients together. So we'll use our fingertips to actually break down this butter into the flour. And the reason why I'm using cold butter and cold shortening, because once your fingertips start working that butter into the flour, it'll warm up that butter and sort of like break it down even faster. And I find that gives me the best result. Now we're adding the warm water to the flour mixture. We'll pull those 2 ingredients together to create a dough. Keep in mind you're adding the water in increments, bits at a time. And also this is warm water, and anything too hot could end up killing your yeast and preventing it from blooming. Add as much water as needed because this recipe calls for 2 cups of water, and it's all depending on the environment you're in. The temperature of the room will determine how much water is being used. Now that we've created a dough, we'll turn that dough onto a floured surface, a clean floured surface, and we're gonna sort of work that dough or knead that dough for about 5 to 10 minutes to help release those glutens. The longer you work the dough, the more texture you will have when you break that bread apart. If the dough is too sticky, just add the extra flour that you have reserved. This will help prevent the dough from sticking onto the surface. So as you can see, I'm doing a rocking motion back and forth, and I'm pretty much folding that dough into itself. And we're also using any extra bits of flour to help prevent that dough from also sticking onto the surface. And this is what kneading is. You're just doing that rocking motion. And this will help the dough develop its gluten, and you'll end up with those beautiful strands when you break that bread apart and that nice chewy center. We'll continue kneading the dough and a little longer, and as you can see, the texture of this dough is starting to change and is developing a more smoother texture. And that's a good indication that your dough is almost ready to rest. I know this is a boring part of making bread, it's kneading the dough. Some people find it relaxing, and some people just want to get to the process of actually enjoying the bread. But a little hard work, and will pay off in the end, and you'll actually end up with a delicious bread, I promise you. As you can see, the dough have changed from a tacky dough to a much smoother dough, and once you poke your finger into it, it's actually not sticking to the dough any longer. So we'll place that in a greased bowl, and we're gonna cover that with saran wrap or a kitchen towel and allow that to rest in a warm place for about an hour or so until the dough have doubled in size. Our dough have doubled in size, and now we will divide this dough into 2 parts because we're making 2 bread from this recipe. And we will take those 2 parts, we're going to divide them, and we're going to sort of like fold them back into itself, and then we're going to divide each halves into 3 larger portion and 1 small portion. Please feel free to make any shape or size of bread you prefer. When we're dividing the dough into 2, you can take one of those halves and fold it into itself, and then place that into a loaf pan and end up with a nice loaf bread instead of a flat bread. To form our flatbread, we need to roll each dough ball into a log shape. And we're going to be rolling each dough about the same length, which will be about 12 inches or so. Now we have our log shapes. We'll take 3 equal parts and we'll sort of like form an X, and then we'll continue braiding that dough, and then we'll tuck the 2 ends in, and also we'll take the smaller portion of the log dough and we'll place that on the top of the bread, and we'll also tuck that in at the end so we can have a finished look. We'll go ahead and take our braided dough and we'll place it in a pan, a baking pan or a baking sheet, and we'll allow that to rest in a warm place, covered with a kitchen towel for about 40 to 45 minutes or so until the dough have doubled in size. Once the dough have doubled in size, we'll place that in a 375-degree preheated oven, and we'll bake that for about 20 minutes or 25 minutes or so. I like my bread a little bit on the lighter side, so I'll be checking my bread around 20 minutes to make sure it's not overcooked or over brown. So another easy way to form a braid is to take the 3 portions of log, which is 3 strips, and you'll attach it from the top, and then you'll overlap each one of those strands to form a braid. And this is a lot easier than the crisscross from the middle. You can make whatever shape or size you prefer. You can do whatever braid is familiar to you. And like I said, cooking, it's supposed to be a fun thing to do. If you take the fun out of it, then it's no longer something you will enjoy. So create whatever makes you happy. So this is our finished bread that took 25 minutes to bake, and as you can see, it developed this beautiful, rich golden color. And now we'll take a generous amount of butter and we'll dab the entire top of the bread and have that butter melt into that warm bread. And oh my, this is so delicious. Allow it to cool before you start enjoying it, because it literally just came out of the oven, so you want to allow that bread to cool before you start biting into it. You can enjoy this with whatever you choose to enjoy it, whether it's a dab of butter, a piece of cheese. You can toast it or make French toast. My husband loves French toast, so you can make something like that with it. In the opening shot, I had served it with pepper pot, or traditional pepper pot, which I've already made a video and I'll be posting soon once I finish editing. But that's something we make around the holiday, and so I hope you like this video. Please subscribe to my channel, hit like below, and thank you for watching. Happy cooking.